Well, hello, everyone, and congratulations. The women I'm looking at on the screen, you led your unit to do over 10,000 in wholesale production in the month of December. I know that there may be some people re-listening to this. I pray that this is timely for you. I pray it's what you need for your mid-year Mary Kay checkup, pivot, focus forward, refresh. I love in Mary Kay that we get 2 New Years. I love that because a year, 12 months is really, it's long enough to procrastinate, right? Right now it's 6 months. And this is why so much happens in the last 6 months of the Mary Kay year because there's not enough time to procrastinate now. Now it's like, put the pedal to the metal, toss off the stuff that's not serving us well, get focused forward on where you plan to be by seminar 2024, based on what God laid on your heart, seminar 2023, not based on what's happened so far this 6 months, right? God hasn't changed his mind. God does not work on the Mary Kay calendar. He needs us to be obedient to what he's called us to. And that is where miracles happen. I love this 6 months because when you combine your obedience, and it may mean that you have to do more this 6 months than you did the last 6 months. But that's a good thing. I just had a DIQ get done from my unit on New Year's Eve, and I love seeing women under pressure. I love seeing them push through Mary Kay finish lines because that's where you see what's inside. And there's always some good stuff. You're just like, okay, good. I did better with that this time. My numbers were better. I'm not, I didn't put myself in a win-lose situation. But then there's tweaks that we have to make, right? Obviously from the screen, you can see my name is Otten-Sweeney. I have been in Mary Kay 37 years. And so some of you I have met, some of these faces look very familiar, some I haven't. I'll look forward to seeing you come up and introduce yourself at leadership if our paths cross. But I have a YouTube channel. You can see a little video that's 4 minutes long that shows my career, my first, trip that I went on to London. I was pregnant with my daughter, who's now a Cadillac director, but Mary Kay Ash was there. Also, the second trip I earned, I went to her house for new director training. Daleen White was my national, and then Debbie Moore and Kathy Hillou. So Kathy Hillou is a person that led me to the Lord, her and Sue Ubel. Debbie Moore has been my mentor and still is. And so, you all come from legacy nationals that go right back to the first 9. All of you do. That's your lineage. And what I am seeing is in this time period that we're at, with so many nationals retiring, there's batons that need to be passed well. And you are all the passers of those batons. Whether you want to be a national, if that's a calling, it's, in the age range, we need to pick up the pace and get it done. That's an 18-month time period. Maximum. People can do it in 12. Diana Polanco still has a record, and that's 22 months. And that was before we had the virtual world that we have now, that you can get in front of more people faster. But I guarantee you, when she was going to every single one of her parties, she was telling people, I'm looking for 20 directors. She wasn't looking for people to do an e-start and get their stuff at cost. Very different. Did you guys catch that? Very different. Back in the day, we did the 4-point recruiting plan at every party. Sales and recruiting went together. And I was sold the whole big picture. I came in, I had just graduated from the University of Michigan. I was met by a woman who, Debbie Moore, was teaching how to warm book because her warm market was not supportive for her perfect Empower start. And so Debbie Moore was teaching her how to meet people, warm booking, asking people to be face models in a mall in the middle of a day. I had a marketing degree. I was in retail management. I was in a different store. I was doing some marketing research stuff. And Debbie Moore made Nancy Murata come and talk to me and ask me to be a face model. And so she came over to my house, my apartment, invited my roommate, fell in love with the basic skincare, yellow concealer, first time I'd ever been taught to wash my face. And then she invited me to a success meeting repeatedly. I think at least 3 or 4 times, because in retailing, your schedule always changes. And you really don't have a life. It was one of those training programs. They worked you 80 hours a week. And if they didn't kill you, then you were very promotable. It was a retail management position set up very much like public accounting, and how they handled raising up and sifting and figuring out who was going to be in for the long haul. And I realized real quick, I didn't want to be in it for the long haul. I saw the women I was being groomed to be. They were cold. They had to keep other people away from them. This was the mid 80s. And I didn't want to grow up and be that person. I also didn't want to work 80 hours a week for my whole career, because I saw the writing on the wall. I had a stay-at-home mom who raised me and a dad who was very successful in business, and I wanted both. I wanted and. And what's so fun is, I mean, God has really made me to be an and person. He's made it very clear in this time period, we do virtual and in person. It's not one or the other, it's and. And it looks different for everyone, but it's and. It's selling and recruiting at the same time. It's not one, at the expense of the other. It's building a unit size and production. It's doing production and offspringing people. Like, we've made a lot of ors in Mary Kay that aren't ors, that weren't ors to start with. But at this point in time, my background, 2.5 years as a consultant, started when I was 23. My husband's job moved us around. My first 3 years in Mary Kay, I had 9 addresses in 4 states. And in that 36-month time period, I earned my first car, Queens Court of Sales, recruiting, Cadillac at 6 months. We called it a super achiever Cadillac. Like, that was the biggest thing you got. You got your Cadillac, and you got a name. You didn't even get a banner. Now new directors get $1,000 every quarter, plus $1,000 for hire unit club, plus $1,000 for doing all 4. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm definitely not the national you want to talk to if you think directors don't make enough money, because you guys are spoiled babies. You make so much more money than we did. When I became a director, I got a unit number. And when I was $1 million director, we had $1 million slumber party, and I got a robe. I didn't get a Louis Vuitton on my trip. I didn't get a $1,000 bill as $1 million director. Like, it is such a rich plan right now if people will take advantage of what Mary Kay has to offer. And we need leaders. So thank you for being the leaders we need. Now we need to multiply you. Mary Kay said our job as directors was to find new directors. It's to pass it on. That's what she said. Our number 1 job description was. So I have been, my area has been gold circle, like just inches from diamond, enough to frustrate you and make you crazy when you divide it up, how much it is a month. And you're like, seriously, we missed it by that much. But if you are someone who has been shooting for something for a long time, I get it. 20 years is a long time. My directorship, I moved 450 my first year, 500, and then trips 12 out of 15 years. $1 million twice, sat in a throne, and God said, okay, you're supposed to be a national. And 20 years ago, I'm like, did I hear that right? Because it has been challenging and interesting, and it has not, it hasn't been what I thought it was going to be. And that may have been some of your experiences at some time in your Mary Kay business or right now. But please know that God doesn't change his mind. And sometimes he just wants to know that what he's placed in your heart and what he's called you to and him is more important than the accolade and where you think you're supposed to be going. If you haven't read The Dream Giver in a while, that is an excellent book. It's a great book to take your unit members through, because I think it does the best job of describing having a dream, getting out of ordinary, border bullies, the wastelands, having to give your dream back to him. There's been multiple times that I've had to say, you know what, God, like, I was pretty clear on the baton passing and being an inner circle national and what I was called to. But if this is what it stays at, I'm fine. I'm still going to do the job you called me to. Like, when you get to those points, and you guys, those are hard conversations. There's snot running down your nose and you're laying on the floor, because it's that tension that Abraham had. He had to put Isaac on the altar, but he knew he was bringing him back because he told his servant, "We'll be back from the mountain." He didn't say, "I'll be back." He said, "We'll be back." He was confident that God was providing a substitution, but tying him up and raising, the knife, getting to that point had to be really hard. Are you willing to lay it down, trusting that God's going to give it back to you? Because that may be what's holding you back from that next person coming into your unit that is coachable, that does return your calls, that is excited to hear from you, that actually does perfect start, that actually, understands the value of inventory. All the things that we find are sometimes needles in a haystack. They've always really have been needles in a haystack, and now they really are, because the world has changed a lot. But God knows this world. He started this company through Mary Kay. If after what we saw in the pandemic and us having a debt-free plant in Texas that could produce for the government a hand sanitizer in a week, when we never even had a hand sanitizers prior to that, to give 10 million away to keep us open as an essential business, that was a confirmation to me, God's got us. Like, he is protecting us and providing for us. He always has, and he always will. And as long as Mary Kay specified in the last chapter of her autobiography, these are the three things that when I am gone are necessary for this company to continue on. That's another book to reread every single year. I think that it should be mandatory. If you're representing Mary Kay, rereading her autobiography every year. Every time I do, I catch something new and it gets me re-excited. But in the last chapter, she says that doing your business according to the golden rule, believing that God's planted a seed of greatness in every single person, and it's our job to encourage it out. And she believed that God first, family second, career third, is when her life was prioritized that way, things went best. When we preserve that, our company continues on. She didn't say when we have the smartest scientists and the best products, our company continues on. She didn't say when we got to do virtual business or in-person business, this company continues on. Those are the three things that she said is imperative for this company to continue on. So as a legacy leader, that's important for you to know. That means that those are some of the most important things that you're supposed to be passing on to your people. I want to share with you in my coaching formula that was actually, like, looking back, was a strategic idea. And have you ever been at the point of frustration in your business? And it could be right now, going, okay, I'm working, but things aren't happening. People are quitting. It seems like a pruning season. What's going on? And all of a sudden you get quiet. You don't get on Facebook. You don't get on social media. You don't ask for other people's suggestions. You actually get quiet, and he gives you an idea, like something just like, oh yeah, I could do that. For me, it's always been at a point where I've gotten to the end of myself. I've done everything I know how. I don't know how to do anything else. And we didn't have the distraction of the push of a button you could box a national, or the push of a button you could be on someone's YouTube channel or website. All we had was ourselves and God and our brains. And I encourage you to go back to him and yourself and your brain, because God has all the ideas that you need. He gave this idea to Mary Kay. She didn't get it from someone else. All the things that she got from him were strategic ideas, because this was new. And what he's going to do through you is also new. It doesn't mean it's going to be opposite of book, coach, sell, recruit. There's some things that are just Mary Kay rules of success. But this coaching formula was one of those times that once I got people through a new consultant training packet, if they would get through a Perfect Start and Power Start and Pearls, then unless they had a career path goal, I didn't really know what to do with them, because I've always been the girl. I believe everyone should be in leadership. And I sold the whole big business from the beginning, not the get started, get your feet wet, and then I'm going to show you more of the business down the line, because I don't want to overwhelm you. We got to stop making those decisions for women. These are women who get human beings out of their body. I was just in the labor and delivery room with my daughter 6 months ago. And that is a pretty amazing, grueling process to get a human being out of your body. And then we're telling them that we have to go do a skincare class for them because they can't figure out how to teach another woman how to wash her face with the #1 line of skincare and color in the world. You guys, that's crazy. Like, I understand why leaders take on things because things aren't moving fast enough. But hopefully with this formula, it gives you an idea of where you can tweak your numbers, because when you're working with Mary Kay math in your favor, then you don't have time to worry about the people who aren't willing to read a flip chart, flip, squirt, and smile, book 8 to hold 5, which is a perfect start, and then do it again for a power start to own the skills. I mean, that still works. It still absolutely works. This book, it's by John Bevere, John Bevere, 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 called Multiplying Your God-Given Potential. There's a big X on it. Multiplying Your God-Given Potential. This book, ironically, is based on Matthew 25:14-30, which, I don't know if you can see this with the light. This was signed, you can kind of see her signature. It says Mary Kay, love Mary Kay, Matthew 25:14-30. This was given to me at her home when I went there for new director training. Many of my peers and friends also have this from that same era. The first 10 years I was in, at 9 years actually, in Mary Kay, I'd saved it. I never read it. I never looked it up. I didn't grow up in a household that read the Bible. Like, you went to churches that they read things to you, but that was above your head. And so until I was in Mary Kay, I never saw people read God's word and apply it, not just to their Sunday, Wednesday life, but also their Monday through Friday work life and their finances and raising their family. To me, that was so interesting. Like, God used this culture to draw me to him through that. I was so fascinated by women who were as comfortable talking about their faith and their business all together. And I saw Mary Kay Ash do it. She was the first person I saw do that, like, from stage, my first leadership conference. And I remember her saying, and I'm straight out of business school at the University of Michigan. So I'm listening to this little old woman say that if you lose raising your kids and your family for success in this business, you have nothing. I remember going, wow, gosh, I've never heard that from the companies that were recruiting me and that I've worked for. And, we do business by the golden rule. You treat other people how you want to be treated yourself. And I'm like, wow, yeah, didn't hear that in business school. And then, all the things that we know are Mary Kay Ash truths, they're actually God's truth. The longer I'm in Mary Kay, the more I realize she must have, walked with the Lord pretty closely, because there aren't very many companies that have not just survived 60 years, but thrived. And a human doesn't have the ability to do that, because we've seen lots of successful companies made by humans that haven't made it. But he talks about strategic ideas in here. I highly recommend you get your hands on that for yourself. But a strategic idea was, okay, God, I don't know what to do with these people. If they don't want to move ahead in the business, she has the potential, but she's not doing anything. And so this is the coaching formula that I started to use as a director. I want you to write it down. It's something you can use with your consultants, but most importantly, I want you, by the time your head hits the pillow tonight, to look back at your numbers so you can evaluate your business your first 6 months in this year, very black and white, very non-emotionally, very analytically, because you are a business owner. And Mary Kay and Daleen White talked a lot about making money, keeping more money than you were making, but also running this like a business. And so the first thing that you're going to want to look at, put number 1 down, numbers. Next to numbers, write leads, new faces, skincare, sets sold, personal interviews, personal recruits, and then directors, add on unit interviews, unit recruits, and unit size. Okay, jump down. Number 2 is target market. Mary Kay's target market, I have found that you sell skincare to 1/3 or half of them, and 1 out of 5 who've tried the product sign up. They are women who hit 3 out of these 5 marketing statistics. So you're gonna write down 5 things. One is write down kids. Number 2, education. 3, home. 4, 25 to 55. 5, married. Okay, so that's target market. Next, let's jump down to number 3. That's systems / skill. And then number 4, you. Okay, so when I am coaching someone, if I was coaching you right now, of what can you change, where do you want to go? First off, you have to know where you're going, because I can't coach you to get somewhere you don't know where you're going. So let's go back to July or August, depending on when you were, well, I guess you're Sapphire, we were all there in July. Seminar. What was God laying on your heart? What were the finish lines? Was it you're going to Hawaii? Is it sitting on a throne? Is it a certain unit size so that you have so many offsprings? Is it a place on the career path, quarter sales, quarter recruiting, triple star? You guys know all the possibilities. What was it? Because it's still that. That's still your goal. You're not changing your goals based on where you're at year to date. Okay? So you have to know where you're ending up. So we're ending up at the end of June, right? So now we have to look at, the first thing you look at when you're evaluating your business is numbers. Women do this opposite generally. The first thing they tell me is what's wrong with them, what's going on in their life, la, 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 all about me. You. And then if they get past beating themselves up or trying to convince me that, you know, it's not supposed to happen, then they're going to go to skill. Consultants will always go to skill. They'll tell me they don't know how to book. They need more training. They don't know how to do a party. They haven't made use of any of the resources, but they don't know how to do it. Directors will go to systems. Systems are, I need a new training packet. I need to do my meetings differently. I need a different event. Those are systems. Systems could also be childcare, housekeeping, a virtual assistant, in-home assistant, etc. Then if they get done, they figure out their systems, or they take all January getting their system set up, and then they're going to start looking at activity. Target market is important because if your unit isn't in Mary Kay's target market, you need more people in the unit to get average production. I was not in Mary Kay's target market when I started. I was 23, I wasn't married, I didn't have a home, I had a college education, and I was engaged. So I was not target market. And then my husband's job took us to a really tiny border town between Arizona and Mexico. He was a federal agent, and half the town didn't speak English, and I was not bilingual. So I did Queen's Court of Sales and earned my car with a flip chart in Spanish, and it was not my personality. It was not me. I was flipping, squirting, smiling, and taking cash. And if they were smiling and they gave me cash, I figured it was good. They were happy. And then they reordered, and then some people recruited, and then it just grew from there. So I was not in the target market, and that town had very little target market. So I had to do more numbers to get Queen's Court of Sales done. I had to do more numbers to earn a car. And I wish that God would have given me this perspective at that point in time, because what I thought was that Debbie Moore in Hudson, Ohio, that's bougie on bougie, lots of target market plus people. Her unit is doing all these things I see in my newsletter that I get every month, but I can't. I'm not good enough. They're better. They're doing a better job than I am. They're better equipped than I am. And it had nothing to do with that. I had to do more numbers because I wasn't in a target market area and I wasn't in target market. You guys, people get all antsy about this. Marketing, when a company is taught how to market a product, and if you were hired to market a product somewhere, if you were marketing snowmobiles and you start marketing them and putting time, which is money, in Alabama, you're probably going to get fired because the people in Alabama are like, what's a snowmobile? I have no idea. Well, if I start selling them in Michigan where I live, it just snowed a few days ago, I can sell a lot of snowmobiles here. So all products have target markets. And so we in Mary Kay, we sell to everyone, all socioeconomic levels. We recruit everyone, which is unusual because most cosmetic companies have a target market. You can see it from what magazines they advertise in. You can see it where they sell. We sell to all different socioeconomic levels, all different languages, body sizes, education levels, skin colors, languages. I love it. I love Mary Kay because it's a merit system. We don't have to do all this diversity, equality, la stuff because we're a merit system. I love it. We just have to be Mary Kay. She who gets a starter kit and works excels, and she who doesn't. I love it. And so the target market, take a look at your unit because you as the leader may have to warm book, get some hostesses in the target market because you may need different people. You want people of all ages. I want, 19-year-olds and I want 85-year-olds. Something interesting that I'm seeing in this time period is that the 55 and above is some of my fastest growing consultants and directors who are selling the most and working the most. It is really exciting to see my 70-year-old and 80-year-old consultants and directors kicking butt and taking names, and the 30-year-olds complaining that it can't happen or whining or making excuses. You guys, it's a different age. I love in Mary Kay that there's no age discrimination. Obviously, you have to be 18, but I also love when my daughter started at 19. She was a sophomore in college, living on campus, and that, when she wanted a car, because her and her brother were sharing an old car and they weren't doing a good job with it, and I wasn't going to be the car police across the state, she decided she wanted a free car. I told her, if you're working with all college students, you're probably going to have 40 of them to earn a car. If you can get some of their moms and aunts and grandmas, then you're going to have, the number that you needed then. I don't know if it was 12 or 13 or 16, whatever it was to earn a car at that time. But I told her that up front because then they're not frustrated and disappointed. If people's warm market, their family is not target market, you have to tell her you're not being a good business coach to not educate her in that. So she thinks a non-target market family, you're going to do a repair skincare class and sell $1,000. You probably aren't going to. And so target market is important, and you can change that. You can look at your unit, you can change your business, you can teach your people how to do that by who they get to be hostesses, space models, where they warm book, etc. Numbers, that's the last place people go. And I will tell you that if I was having an individualized call with you, I would have you write down, and this is what I'm going to encourage you to write down by the time your head hits the pillow. I want you to look at the last 6 months. What you're going to reap in January is not going to look much different than the last 6 months unless different choices are made. That's just the fact of the matter. Even if you go to leadership, even if you're excited, even if God's called you, to do what you're supposed to do, if we don't do something different, it's unlikely that we're going to get different results, right? So I want you to look at your numbers in all those categories. How many new leads did you average a month coming into your business? Whether that was at facials or parties, warm booking, vendor shows, however you do it. How many new faces, target market faces did you do? So this becomes challenging when you're doing virtual business, but after you look at people's Facebook, you communicate with them, you get a better idea if it's target market or not. In person, again, after you've done a facial, some communication, you get a better idea. But look back, how many target market faces on average a month? The people who aren't target market, we still work with them, but you don't count them in the numbers you need to get your results, right? So each of those different categories, how many skincare sets, new skincare customers did you gain? That's the sustainability of a consultant's business, is how many new skincare customers. It's not just about selling stuff, it's about selling skincare and getting new skincare customers. How many interviews did you personally do? It's hard to get a bumblebee when you do 15 interviews in a year. I mean, they may just fly into your front door, but probably not. So how many personal interviews? How many recruits did you get out of that? And then your unit size. Well, where's your unit size July 1st after it turned over? And now what is your unit size after it turns over? And I will tell you that if my area, which I think is a pretty good cross section of Mary Kay with age and tenure as directors, none have 25 more than they did in July. Most are at the same unit size, and many have not beaten attrition, and they're lower. And so directors start to evaluate how good of a director or leader you are this last 6 months based on what production is, but your production isn't, it's showing your unit, it's reflection of your unit size, not your leadership. Does that make sense? If I gave any of you 100 more people right now, you all did 10,000 or more. If I gave you 100 or more people, you would have doubled it in December, doing nothing different. Production follows people. There's some parts of this business that are very mathematical. You know, the magic, and I kind of hate that word because it's, you know, it's God's power that is changing things and changing hearts. But there is something, you know, it looks like it's magic because it just can change fast when you're doing the same things, your systems are the same, but you have, you know, 25, 50, 100 more people in your unit. So let's look at, right now, let's dig into this unit size thing. And you're at year end in June, I want you to write down, you know, what is the unit club goal that you want for whatever it is, you know, triple star. Again, first, you know, you guys are probably doing 500,000 trips, million, etc. And then what you want to look at is, okay, if that's the unit, what does that unit size need to be? Because you can go at your unit analysis summary or a unit analysis report on Mary Kay in Touch, and you can look at what's, you know, your base is doing with the numbers that you have. So you can determine what your unit size, and if you can't, talk to your national about that so that you have a unit size that you're going to have by the end of June. Okay. And then you divide that up. June, you have a number, May, you have a number, etc. Every single month, you're going to have a number. You're not basing the number on how many people you lost last month. Does that make sense? Your number, so let's just say you need 200 people in your unit. And right now you have 100. So you need 100 people in 6 months. You take 100, divide it by 6 months. And then when January, it flips over. So it's January, your A3s have fallen off, so they're I's. As your unit size is N1s through A3s. N1s through A3s. So when that flips over, you're going to have a number to start January with. And then whatever that 100 divided by 6, if that is your example, let's say, what is 6 divided by 100? So it's not 20. So it's like, let's just say it's 16. So if it's 16, whatever you have when January flips over, you add 16 onto that. And that's what you have to have by the end of January. Okay. And I need you to track it. I need you to write it on a piece of paper. Remember when you were a DIQ or you had a DIQ? My DIQs right now are dogs with a bone. Any single second of any day, they can tell me, how close they are to 24 active. And then production follows people, right? So they're a dog with the bone about getting those people in and then getting them activated. I want to challenge you to be that dog with a bone like you were in DIQ for the next 6 months. Because you guys, this challenge in this game will not fail you. Even if no one in your unit right now is doing what they said they were going to do, if you grow by 100, 50, 75, 150, 200, whatever that number is, you're going to have, by the time we get together again at seminar for the mid-year of 2024 and the new year of Mary Kay, we're going to be having totally different conversations. Totally different conversations. And you are not going to have any time to be thinking about the people right now who told you they were going to be in DIQ for the last 6 months and they're going to be in Fort Worth. And they still have 2 people on their team. And they were non-existent New Year's Eve. Probably have a couple of those. We all do, right? So think how fun it will be to have all new people. And then some of those people will go, oh my gosh, I'm missing out. I got to get on the train. And if they don't, they weren't anyways, but you're where you're supposed to be because God's called you to steward the dream. He's not called them to steward for you. So January is pretty easy with that, right? That math, dividing it up, adding it on. Where it gets tricky is starting in February. Because let's say that you get to your 116 by the end of January, but then in February, you lose 5 because you had 5 I3s that didn't get active. So you end with 116, but you start February with 111, right? Does that make sense? So you have to number in February 111. You don't add your 16 onto the 111. You still know the end of February that you needed, if you needed 116 in January, I don't know why I picked a weird number, then you need 132 in February, right? Because you're still adding on the 16 every month. That number doesn't change. Your job is to beat attrition or recruit more. And so you track 1, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 in a big pink line because you have to get people out of T or new agreements in just to break even in February. And then you're adding on your 16. Does this make sense? You guys, this game works, but directors have to have it in front of them because if they don't, and usually they don't unless the company's doing a promotion for unit size. And that's sad. This is a basic business skill and it's pretty easy. A piece of paper, have it on your phone. That's your job. If you wonder, should I check on Facebook and see what other people are doing? Should I check my Voxer? Should I listen to blah, blah, blah? No, you need to get on the phone and fill in those lines, just like a DIQ does. It's new, you, and the few, right? And it may mean if you don't have recruiters that you got some gold medals in your future. And it may be double gold. And it may be triple gold. But you guys, if those people aren't doing anything, they don't need any more of your time. You already have the system set up to take care of them. You're doing your job. So the unit size is critical. And that you can evaluate your last 6 months. And then I want you to send a picture to your national of where you're going to be in June and what the ending unit size for January, February, March, April, May, June. And you guys, that's your job description. That's how you decide what events you plug into. That's how you invest. That's how you invest how you use your time. That's how you invest who you are working with. That's how you do your new consultant orientations. It drops down from numbers. And then that little formula with your consultants, they can do the same thing the last 90 days. My 2 DIQs did it, and DIQs, people can, if they're charismatic and they have a supportive target market, warm market, they can get through DIQ without doing those Mary Kay numbers, but they can't maintain it. It doesn't last. You have to get to the point where they're doing numbers on the other side, or it's stressful for them to maintain. Also, too, a perfect start is 50 to 60 faces. Let that sink in. We have come in the beginning of Mary Kay that a perfect start was booking 8 to hold 5. A party was 5 to 6 people. So that means a perfect start was 25 to 30 people, correct? That's how we started. And Mary Kay said you did a perfect start 1 week, power start the next week. That was 2 weeks. By the time I started in 86, it was already a perfect start then in 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks, a power start. So it was a month. And then we got, I don't know in what era, it may have been when we didn't have a skincare class flip chart or video accessible. So we started to go to a beauty book skincare class, and then we had to come up with debuts and grand openings because people really didn't know how to do things. And so then we came up with this 30 faces in 30 days as a power start. You guys all, I'm talking to directors. Have you ever seen someone qualify for a unit in a car and be able to maintain it stress-free on 30 faces a month? I haven't, not one. And if you add virtual in, there's no way you can do 30. It's double, triple, quadruple. So it's like going back to Mary Kay real math, that 50 to 60 is a power start. And then my directors who are doing this as a job, so 25 hours a week, is 25 faces. They're putting the products in 25 faces a week. That's 5 parties. If you read Mary Kay's information, 5 parties a week, that's what Daylene White and Mary Kay told me was a job. And if you didn't have 5 parties in your week every single week, Mary Kay would suggest that you'd get a new job. So 5 parties a week, that's 100 faces a month, 33 skincare sets, and 10 recruits. You guys try that. If you have nothing going on, you have nothing else to do other than that, right? If the people aren't playing ball, you have nothing else to do. Try Team 100. If that overwhelms you, do Team 100 in January, February, or do it January, February, March. You can go onto my website, just my name, .com, and the password is legacy, lowercase. The director login password is leadership, lowercase. But you can see in Dawn's frequently used resources, I have a Team 100 sheet, tracking sheet, Team 50, and Team 30, because I needed, in the pandemic, my area started to sell a lot, but I realized they were just selling stuff. It wasn't skincare sets. And people who just use Mary Kay stuff are not tied into our brand the same way. It's not consumable. They're not washing it down the drain the same way. And so I matched up with how many target market faces. And then, so with 100 faces, you should be selling 33 skincare sets. And if you're not, if you do 30 faces, then you should be selling 10 skincare sets. It should be a third. And if you're not, we need to change how we're teaching skincare and how we're closing, et cetera. And then recruits are in proportion because we recruit and we sell. So with Team 100, it's a 10. It's 10. Team 30, it's 3 recruits. Teams 50, it's 5. So that we're selling skincare. We're doing full circle, Mary Kay. Booking, coaching, selling, and recruiting all through the vehicle of the skincare class. So your coaching formula for you personally, so that you know, that's going to tell you the number of new faces that you need, the number of recruits that you need. And hopefully if you did the number of faces that you needed and they were in Mary Kay's target market and you've evaluated your skill, sometimes we do have to get to that U category because there are changes that God needs to make in our character, in our integrity, our transformation. That's what he does. He transforms us from the inside out. But you guys, that's not the majority of the time. I will tell you in coaching conversations with directors and my consultants, 98 or 9% of the time, I never have to get past the numbers category. Once you've done the company average numbers to get the results that you want, then we can have a conversation on the skills and systems. You still, get systems in place for where you want to grow to, right? Not where you're at right now. You still, need to be tweaking target market as you're going along and growing ourselves as you're going along. So you don't have to, get to a point where you're just like, oh, wow, my business has grown faster than I've grown. Mary Kay always told us every day, read the Bible in the morning, and read a motivational book in the afternoon or evening. And so if you're always reading and always listening, then you're going to be constantly growing as you're going through these numbers. In wrapping it up, I wanted to share, this is a book that I just went through with some focus groups, Women Earning Cadillacs, Becoming Directors. It's by Henry and Richard Blackaby. So Black, Blackaby. And it's called To Be God's Leader. Lessons from the Life of Joshua. This is really good. I think it's really timely in Mary Kay because we all watched like Mary Kay and basically Moses, people leading us through the wilderness, you know, towards the promised land, out of Egypt. But now, like, we have to cross the Jordan. You guys are Joshua's and Caleb's. I mean, you're going to go across a river, but it's going to look different. You're going to be claiming the promised land, which the pioneers just set us up for. So many things that were so timely in this, but called to be God's leader. I wanted to share this because in one of the chapters, it says character, the foundation for leadership. And it says careless promises reduce influence. A sure way for a leader to forfeit his influence with followers is to make careless promises. Some leaders enter organizations effusing promises to all who listen. We've had people come in and do that to all of us, right? Every good idea that enters their head or from a Facebook post becomes a promise from their lips. Yet as quickly as the oaths are out of their mouth, they are just as readily forgotten. Followers soon recognize such people and grow to disregard everything they say. Some people in leadership positions constantly make pronouncements about things that they have no intention of acting on. Some leaders repeatedly threaten to resign if they do not get their way, but they never follow through. Others promise to listen to any suggestion, but they become angry and defensive when critiqued. Others promise to faithfully support their colleagues, but they disappear when the pressure's on. Some of the most haphazard vows made are those offered to God. It is sobering to consider how many empty promises God hears from well-intentioned but insincere people. Scripture warns of the gravity of not keeping vows made to God. Look up Ecclesiastes 5:2-5. Leaders' words are their currency, but those words are worthless unless they're backed by action. And that really hit home to me. I hope it hits home to you. What have you been saying that you're going to do? Have you been telling your unit that they're going to be $1 million unit? They're earning a Cadillac. You're going on a trip. What have you been telling your family and the people around you? You guys, people toss around words carelessly. We can't control what other people do, but I will tell you that Mary Kay followed through on the words that she said. She followed through on starting this company, and her husband died a week before, and her accountant and attorney recommended that she disregard her plans because she would end up broke and having to work the rest of her life because this was not going to succeed. You guys, aren't we glad that she followed through on her words and what God had shown her? She had a time period where she was doing a director's meeting and half the directors live in front of her at the director's meeting got up and left and took the formulas and started beauty control. Mary Kay continued that meeting that day and continued on. I could go on and on and on about how she stood by her word. And we've all stood by some of our words, right? But maybe it's time that, we can't use the pandemic forever as an excuse. We can't use virtual or in person forever as an excuse. A season of life, a season on the calendar, like what promises, promises do you need to walk out and get intentional and focused on? I wrote in my journal, I said, careless promises reduce influence. And so my goal is inner circle. So I wrote down, what does keeping my word look like? What does keeping my word look like? I encourage you to ask yourself that. For your goal that we just talked about, that you had in July of 23, that you're going to do and race through by Seminar 2024. And we've just talked about how. What does keeping your word look like? Because you guys, I mean, even if you think you're fooling other people, that, I don't know about you, but when I think of saying something to God and then not following through on it, you know, Mary Kay's greatest desire was for us to hear good and faithful servant. And in this book, John Bevere biblically defines faithfulness as multiplication. Multiplication. And there's no other way. After you read the biblical support for that, there's no other way to define faithfulness than multiplication from that parable. And so what does keeping your word look like? You know, I wrote down the things that it looks like in my business. And you know what? That was October 26th. I wrote that down. And I will tell you, that is what I look at every single day. Those are the first things on the top of my list, making that happen. Not the bottom of the list, the top of the list. Proactive. Does everything get done? No. But the most important things get done. And you know what's so fun about doing what supports keeping your word? Even if everything doesn't get done, and even if people bail out, you're excited. You're invigorated. You are hopeful. And most importantly, you're being obedient. God's always faithful. Our job is obedience. And I did it in the different arenas of my life. Just, you know, as I'm going through, this was great to have to do this today because it made me have to sit still and go through, what does keeping my word look like in my family legacy? What does keeping my word look like as a financial steward? What does keeping my word look like in taking care of my physical self, temple God works through? What does it look like in my marriage? What does it look like in my leadership, et cetera, et cetera? So I encourage you to grab that book. Something that I want to leave you with, that God woke me up before getting ready for a couple fall retreats, Brittany Jenks' national debut, and then my area's fall retreat down in Georgia, and then at the $1 Million reunion at 3 a.m. If God wakes you up, get up. He's got something to tell you, and write it down so you remember, because you think you're going to remember and you won't. I love to be able to look back on what he shared. And aren't we glad that Mary Kay wrote down the things that, you know, he shared with her, because that in the Bible elicit confidence for us. And I mean, everyone has to decide what's their plumb line. You know, I've decided the Bible's my plumb line on truth. I don't care if a national says something or someone at corporate, and if it doesn't line up with God's truth, it's not the truth. And Mary Kay's autobiography and any materials I can get of people that were close to her and knew her, that they wrote, that's my plumb line with Mary Kay. Doesn't matter what results people are getting, that's my plumb line in Mary Kay. Everyone gets to decide, what's your plumb line? What do you believe the truth is in these different categories? And this is something that I want to leave you with, because God, he usually doesn't give me acronyms. And this is what he said: wake up. I want you to write wake up on a piece of paper. For W, this is what I heard. Women are desperate and desirous of what we have to offer right now. Desperate and desirous of what we have to offer now. And our culture is the #1 thing that they're desperate for. So when you're at your parties, you better be talking about more than product. You better be talking about the Mary Kay culture. When you're doing orientations, are you selling the culture? People are more desirous and need that for their mental health more than they're willing to work for money right now, even though money is very needed right now. A is for asking. Asking is what we're paid for, not deciding. Are you deciding that she wouldn't move up? She's tried it before. She's not going to do it. She wouldn't do it. She doesn't need the money. You know, I'm intimidated by her, so I'm not going to talk to her. Yeesh. Asking is what we're paid for, not deciding. Okay? Keepers of the flame. Mary Kay's one thing that she always told us when we talked to her in person and thanked her was pass it on. We're keepers of the flame. We're in charge of, I started out with that. That's our job, is to pass it on. And if not us, then who? This screen right here, I need to see you all with bumblebees on your shoulders at seminar, and legitimate ones. Like 24, maybe you get a bumblebee between now and seminar. Why do you have to just stretch it out and have it be 12? Let's have it be 24. And it may need to be if you don't have any yet. But 24, like unicorns, 24 women like you that love what this business is about and are willing to be coachable and want to grow and want to be transformed and want to be a change maker and want to then help other women do it. You guys, this group right here, 24 apiece at Sapphire Seminar, can you imagine just this group, the impact that you could have between now and seminar? E for wake, E is for everything. You guys, everything depends on this. And when I say this is your personal recruiting. This is you growing your unit size. Mary Kay is doing everything they can with the products, the Ryan reorganization. They're doing everything they can. Do we want them recruiting and selling products? Really? People need to wake up. Mary Kay gave us that responsibility. But if we're not going to do it, that family is not going to let this company dissolve because the sales force is unwilling to do our job description. Our job description is selling the product and the opportunity. It's not the company's. This is a great checks and balance system. They make the products, they keep us legal, they, get our websites going, they do all that stuff. Our job is to pass it on. Everything depends on this, our company's next 60 years and your future. Future sustainability and finances depend on this. Up, you are here at this time purposefully and strategically. You for you. You are here at this time purposefully and strategically. And P, personal responsibility. And that goes back to the Matthew 25, 14 through 30. Maybe Mary Kay gave us all those dollar bills, and before we retire, we're supposed to be sharing that with you, that was the most important thing. If she's giving them to her directors as they hand out the door, it wasn't book, coach, sell, recruit. It wasn't a director's manual. It wasn't anything else other than Matthew 25, 14 through 30. So I encourage you, read that in different versions. Get the multiplying your God-given potential. I've spent the last, 17 years, because I didn't read it the first 9 or 10, the last 17 years saying, okay, God, why did she give this to us? What did she want us to know? What does this mean? What am I supposed to be doing with this? You guys, thank you for starting your new year with me. I pray that this is helpful. I pray that it is, it's challenging. It's sharpening. I want it to be. I want to get better. I know you do too, because you plugged into this. And, it's not against the law. If this would be helpful for your Mary Kay Offspring directors to hear, I'm going to pass it on to my other directors too. I mean, you have my permission. I will get the recording out to the nationals this afternoon. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop the recording and I will stay on to answer a couple of questions.